gassed. I don't think they're gonna beat Nurchio, but you know what? Nurchio did not have a totally great showing yesterday. In fact, by the time I was looking for him, I suppose, and had hide completed rounds as the option chosen on Battlefy, I don't remember seeing him. So I don't know when he got knocked out. He got knocked out, I want to say, in round 2 of the winner's bracket, which is just insane. I forget to who. And then he must have fallen out in like round 3 or something of the loser's bracket, which is really weird, but you know, don't quote me on that. The point is, he didn't get as far as you would expect. So maybe just an off day, maybe an unlucky opponent. Like he actually has had trouble with some of the opponents he was facing. By the way, DC changed to Protoss. I'm not sure, but he is one of those guys that you would expect to make it through with 8x3 slots available, right? So, and then 8 going to, where did the other guy go to? The other 8 go to 16, 24 from the qualifiers, and then oh, it's just 24 players from Europe. Okay. My bad. Anyways, we are watching. You're watching. I'm casting the WCS European Qualifier number 2, with a grand total of 3. The third one to play out on Sunday. We're in a PvP to start things off. In the top right, as the pink Protoss, it's Beastyqt. In the bottom left, as the red Protoss, he is Blazers Strange. We have a new team. I think Bly was their most recent pickup, but I could be wrong. They might have signed everyone at the same time. They have like 5 or 6 players. Maybe Bly is like their most famous player, but they have really strong players chosen for a qualifier like this. They should be happy with the results, I'm predicting anyways. I can actually go ahead and find who the exact team is. So they have Bly, Zipper the Fly. Zipper the Fly might be the weakest, like no one really knows much about him. By the way, we had a 1 gateway expand from Beastyqt, which is just generally not how you play this matchup. Strange, who we're casting now, who has a very strong chance to make it through. Damaga, who might make it through in the 3rd qualifier, but we'll see. And then Skillis, who also, I want to say, got decently far in yesterday's bracket. His name sounds familiar. Anywho, so Beastyqt going for the 1 gateway goes into a Stargate. At the very least, that's all, you know, up to par, what we would expect, but the 1 gateway just being kind of a little bit weird here. So Strange, you know, sees this. Probe Scout, very common, in fact, mandatory in PvP. He might have been able to apply some pressure, get a third gateway, and then go ahead and try and bust what would a lot of the times be a very fast natural. There have been in the past some builds that the Protoss players tried to create, maybe on like larger maps, or back when we had some multi-spawn maps where they would 1 gateway expand into a fast nexus. That's not what Beastyqt is doing. You need to go for a Stargate, so it's not exactly the lowest amount of production you could have, but it's not great. And in fact, Strange is without the 3rd gateway quite being done, because right now he's building the Robo and a gateway here, not back at home. He is planning to apply pressure. Beastyqt was still going to be taking a faster expand than what Strange had in mind. It would have been a little weird to see Strange just see all this and go, you know what, I'm going to take an expansion. And then Beastyqt pylon blocked him, which might have been even more of a like push to go ahead and attack Beastyqt. Maybe this is some type of bait. Beastyqt is not just like for the lulz playing Protoss. For anyone who knows him from his past, he has swapped over to Protoss for I think more than a year at this point, and is pretty damn good with it. So he must have some success with this build. And to have it as almost like a bait build, I wouldn't be surprised, because this would, you know, from a noob like me, I would expect a build like this from Strange, maybe not proxied, but still. And for Beastyqt to get away with this build against this 9 times out of 10, and that's why he finds it so effective, that'd be shocking. That would be shocking to me. So there's got to be some master plan here to defend. An Adept gets through with a shield battery, can't do much damage, and with 1 Adept, it pretty much is just saying, I want to scout, see what's going on. It sees nothing more than the first 2 gateways, and that just isn't possible, you know? Like, he's gonna... if that was really the case, then Strange is banking a hell of a lot of money because he hasn't thrown on a Nexus. So Beastyqt knew something was up, just couldn't tell exactly what. Now seeing the Warp Prism knows that the Robo was somewhere around here. And a lot of Stalkers. Now the Phoenix can try and take out the Warp Prism, but there are so many Stalkers that I think they can even one-shot the Phoenix or close to it. Nice lift up. And now that Beastyqt has a Robo done, that was in the making, and Immortal just popped out. He should be able to defend against the mass amount of Stalkers. But now that Strange has dealt with the Pylon, wouldn't it make sense for him to just contain? And there's a Sentry right now. And expands? Maybe not. The Force Field might be just to push that Immortal forward. And if you're really good with Protoss, then that's certainly an option there. If you suck with Force Field, then you just end up saving one of their units accidentally. This gateway's gonna fall, and that's gonna be a lot of Beastyqt's production gone. That's no more gateway production, in fact. It seems... I mean, it might hold. You know, we all talk about how Protoss can hold on 2 bases, right? Imagine holding one with a high ground ramp choke. Like, the main doesn't often get broken unless it really was a surprise attack or something like that. But there is the option also to just bleed off unit after unit, which feels like it's going to happen to Beastyqt, or just, well, more in his case, he's just not going to be able to make units to bleed off. But hey, I might be underestimating the power of a Robo and a Stargate. The combination of units here is rather powerful. The Phoenix can take out multiple units from play. In regards to the Sentries, they'll take them out really quickly, actually, just with the DPS. Stalkers, a little less so, but they can still crowd control them. Immortal, obviously, crowd controlled. And then the Immortals on the ground at Beastyqt are taking out what does kind of make up the meat of a beginning Protoss army in an early game PvP, Stalkers. So it's like, it can be a good combination. It's just that Strange has, it feels like the world is his oyster, and Beastyqt is just shut down, clamped up. His little turtle that got caught in, like, fishing net or something. It's not great, it's not pretty. And while he's still swimming around, it feels like unless some fisherman comes and, like, cuts all the webbing off of him, he's gonna die. So that's kind of what happens here. The recall has to go down to the Phoenix. They're gonna go and harass. You gotta come back and help out. And he's not going for the crowd control method. He is going for the straight up kill a Stalker method. But even with 8's Phoenix, he's still not killing Stalkers that quickly. The Immortal doubly so needs a second lift up for that one. This is awfully awkward with the positioning. You know, how everything was going down. The 4 Immortals were not getting targeted by by Strange at the same time that I watched Beastyqt's Phoenix struggle there. You know, Beastyqt's Immortals were doing what they intended to, and Strange wasn't able to get, I think, the units quite in place that he would want. So Strange is actually just going to tap out. This was totally unexpected. Very odd PvP, and I guess the sea turtle that had the like netting around it is actually it gave it superpowers. So it just won. Save the world, save the oceans. I don't know. I don't know and like enough finite things about PvP to really say what decisions had to be made. I'll put it that way. Because again, from my eyes, I saw this like contained potential, and I was like, okay, well then, I was gonna bring up the Phoenix could go and harass, and that is a problem. I thought that the pressure that could be applied would keep them at home. But then Strange tried to apply that pressure, and if it failed, and the Phoenix, being alive as they were, like, not many units died of Beastyqt in that defense, despite what looked to be a lot of units from Strange. The Phoenix then would be able to just control the game, because Strange doesn't have a Twilight Council to get to blink. His Stalkers on the side of the map, obviously, and shield batteries don't help you against Phoenix, especially in that number. So the tap out does make sense. And the way that everything came together, it's like, okay, now I need to reverse engineer to kind of get the idea. And I guess my guess that Beastyqt was almost setting up like a trap build was kind of correct, but I don't know if that's specifically why he does that build. Like, I don't watch enough Beastyqt to know that much. But it looks like Beastyqt didn't choose Protoss. He's actually playing random. So, cool. Don't you have to watch a cast as well? Well, it's more like you can watch and cast. No, hold on here. You can cast something and be watching it, but you can't be watching it and also cast. No, hold on. You guys know where I'm trying to get to, right? It's too damn early. It's not early at all. That's the nice thing about qualifiers, you know? It's an opportunity for us, you know, plebs like me to learn about the builds that we can see. And then I sound much smarter when I'm on the main broadcast. Someone's gonna drop out. Let's hope it's not us. Someone with a potato computer needs to, there used to be a very popular, well, very popular is kind of a strong, there used to be a somewhat popular arcade map, I want to say, that you would go into that literally loaded everything in StarCraft. This was heavily used back in like 2012, 13, maybe 14, and then I think computers overall just got a little bit too good. Maybe StarCraft made some programming tweaks as well, but I doubt it. As far as the design of what seems to be the network of what's the appropriate word here? The infrastructure, there we go, of StarCraft, and like its programming seems to be a Jenga tower that is easily just knocked over with one little detail out of place. So I doubt that was what fixed it. I think it's just the better computers. So you don't really see anyone load up that custom mod anymore. I think it was arcade, but the whole like custom lobbies versus arcade thing always confuses me. I guess custom lobbies are just when they make the arcade game and they wait for people to join in, but whatever. Yeah, it would have been an arcade game, would have been a mod. You would literally just watch what was almost like a cinematic of everything exploding and everything doing all their spells. It was fun. But alright, that guy's gone, so he was probably the culprit of the slow start. But at least he did it here where there's literally no micro going down. That's top right as the pink Protoss, it is Beastyqt. And he once again got Protoss. This is random, so this is fortunate for him, as Protoss is his main race. And I didn't see anyone correct me, so. And in the bottom left is the red Protoss. It is Blazer's Strange. Yeah, as I was saying it towards the, at the end of that game, like when you reverse engineer it, when you see it all play out, you go like, oh, okay, like, yeah, okay, I get it all, I get it. And Strange, probably better Protoss than any of us here, was probably like, okay, I need to hit this timing before he gets this many Phoenix, and that's why he tapped out when he did. But I'm still a little shocked that he didn't just, well, I mean, he did try and attack him. I'm just shocked that Beastyqt got away with a one gateway expand, I guess, is what it kind of boils down to. That was the first thing that was decided by Beastyqt before he slapped down the Stargate, right? Before he slapped down the Robo to help defend, as well as continue on with the game. He decided to go for a one gateway expand, which just is something that you're not supposed to be able to do, considering how many PvPs we've had where it's always double gateway at the front. So that just was like, right there. I'm like, okay, I'm surprised that Strange wasn't able to beat that back. It might be because it's a Strange way to open. He's not quite used to the timings that really would be weak. He doesn't already pre-plan a build against it because who does it, right? If you see Terrans at a 2-rack all the time, the Zerg player starts to pull first against it, but maybe it's not the same thing in PvP where, God forbid you don't go for a second gateway. And Beastyqt is doing the same build here, so a Stargate behind one gateway expands, something that Strange sees all over the place. He's going to go for a Sentry Soccer opener, which has become one of the more popular openers in a typical PvP, as you can get that hallucinated Phoenix, to see what they're popping out of that Stargate. And, if they're doing the same thing as you are, then you would have Stargates around the same time, if one of you didn't go for a Nexus, or both of you didn't go for a Nexus, and so on. But this is slightly different, because Beastyqt is not investing into, it's not so much the extra 150 minerals, although I guess that is important, as it is also, he's not investing into 50 more gas, or in the case of a Sentry, 100 more gas, right? So this time Strange is not going to try and all in it. And I feel like if his plan was already to put on a proxy pylon and the third gateway was like on the way, then that's something that might be able to push this and at the very least get that cancel on the Nexus, which it did last game. They got the cancel or just wasn't put down. They didn't quite see. But then maybe like backing off would have been the better choice, or you know, not getting a third gateway, just doing the proxy slow warp in of stalkers would probably be able to push this a little. But you know, maybe that's something you have to pre-plan. In this case, Strange not going for that option, going for the like, okay, well, I'll kind of meet you here. You know, my Nexus isn't that far behind because I got an extra gateway because I got an extra unit. And I'm going to get Blink because I figure you're going to go for that Phoenix thing again. And once Phoenix go and throw in that number, they really do need to be responded with Blink. That does kind of, you know, then the effects roll through and you get the whole like, well, our Blink Stalker is going to be as good as Beastyqt's growing immortal count. And then we talk about how Blink Stalkers can at some point snap back and try and control the map if they ever deal with a Phoenix, which is unlikely, but hey, it can happen. And, you know, I think also you kind of expect to get a faster third if you play like this for the Blink player. But anyways, you know, the dynamics go back and forth, and it's going to be a bit more of a passive game, perhaps. Beastyqt is going to have to deal with a couple of adepts for this proxy pylon, but that's about it. We're just going to see maybe adept harassment versus Phoenix harassment, right? It's the Phoenix come in, kill 3 probes. Oh yeah, score. That is the thing. I guess Strange isn't gonna stop doing this until the pylon's found out, and well, the Phoenix can't do anything about the pylon. Beastyqt could send out a couple of stalkers and probably be fine, since the Phoenix should see what the stalkers are of his opponent. They got +1 on the way, more gateways. Beastyqt is just growing the immortal count and still growing the Phoenix count as well. Although they're not quite getting amazing kills. They start off at 3 and then they kind of die down. And in fact, it's the adepts of Strange that are continuing to do damage. Now up to 5, 6, 7. It's gonna be 7 kills. 8? Where's the rest of Beastyqt's army? Ah, Phoenix went the wrong way. There's a shield battery that the probes just were pulled into, so that saves some of their lives. So 5 more killed there. So it's a total of 7. And keeps the Phoenix at home. Not that Beastyqt doesn't have ground army to respond to the adepts, but since the Shade keeps getting into the main base, he's having to move very slow units, where keeping the fast, mobile Phoenix is back at home. Should have been able to take care of that easy peasy. It's like, it's not quite working out exactly as planned here. The Phoenix aren't quite picking up and destroying the adepts as fast as they should, and then they're also not doing the harassment that they should either, because they're back at home. So now they're going to try and do something here. They grab the sentry right off the bat. No shield batteries, no cannons here. But Blink is done, so we heard a Phoenix die over to the right side. Might not be worth 4 probes, so we'll see if he gets any more. Well, for certain he'll get him a couple more. Goes for the 5th one, but not the 6th. Did he run out of energy right there? Something like that? I think he did. So, and he also almost lost another Phoenix, which would be not so good. I mean, he went up to, what, 8 in total, right? So now he stopped production on that. He's going into robotics bay. Strange does get that faster 3rd Nexus. Maybe not as fast as I thought he was going to get it, but still is faster than Beastyqt's. And he's also getting charge and +2. Now, he's got some information from all those depth attacks. That wasn't just for harassment. He's also gotten some scouting on what the army looks like. Continued production perhaps on the Stargate, which, my bad, it is actually continuing to build Phoenix. Okay, then. I wonder how many he goes up to before he feels truly comfortable. At a certain point, because Beastyqt is going for disruptors, I guess he's maybe worried about Strange trying to get into his own Phoenix. And then we have that, like, almost like a TVT thing, right? Where you make like maybe 4 Vikings, then you stop, only continue producing them if your opponent also starts producing them type deal. But I don't know where Beastyqt finds the magic number of Phoenix before he stops, because Strange does not have any pathway set up to go to Stargate. But Strange also might have missed information about the robotics bay until just now. The Adepts were getting information for a time, but then there was a big gap where he didn't see the robotics bay put down. There he sees the disruptor. And now he's going to go ahead and move out. Probably the correct call. I'm not sure this is going to work, but do keep in mind that a lot of Beastyqt's army is in these Phoenix that are currently on the other side of the map, so they're destroying the economy. And actually the army here, even destroying the third Nexus, not something that Strange was truly willing to give up. Both of them could recall, so we could have had Strange recall to his Nexus, then we could have had Beastyqt recall to his own. You know, that might be what happens here. Exactly what happens, but he loses 2 Immortals for it. The third one gets chunked down pretty harshly. So that does put Strange in a not quite dominating army supply. Well, actually he's up to 70 to 50, so it's pretty good. With +2 attack as well. But so much of the focus is going to be on what is going to be 4 disruptors. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 5 disruptors? Okay then.
Game paused.
All right. 5 disruptors. Well, none of us are referees, so we can't tell him that there's not a log on our part. It's him.
Game resumed.
If the observers don't feel lag, then it is the player. So it's the one time we get to just be like, nope, sorry, dude. It's you. Where usually, if there's any doubt whatsoever, casters just leave immediately. So here come the disruptors, and this is why Beastyqt, even if he was feeling just like a slight, like a little bit of a tug when he clicks on a unit, this is why he wants to pause, make sure it doesn't happen, because he really needs to get these disruptor shots to be good. Now he's up to 6 disruptors. That is still a lot of shots left over, even as the blink goes in. That was a scouting blink. 100%. He wanted to see exactly what was up there, and we still have shield batteries, cannons, Phoenix, and a lot more disruptors. I mean, geez, Beastyqt really pumping these out here. Up to 7 now. So Strange is going to take the third Nexus and go back home, but remember he also lost his third Nexus as well as 10 probes and the Phoenix harassment, and he still has to deal with Phoenix harassment. Is like a really annoying thing as well. He didn't get the Nexus and force Beastyqt to take a defensive fight, so that maybe these Phoenix have been called a little in number. Nope. Nothing happened. Beastyqt just turtled back and was natural, and the Phoenix count still is at 10. That is certainly enough to bother Strange's economy here, and then a little bit of then some. So Strange is down to 29 workers because he wasn't... I don't think he was rebuilding the workers for a time either. Now getting back into it. He also has Chrono to use there, but that's a significant amount of workers to replace. I know sometimes it's like, you know, they can speedily replace probes, and you all complain about Chrono and whatever, right? We all do that. But when you think about 150 minerals per round here, that's the gateway production he should already have. That's additional tech he might have already had. It does still, like, technically cut into the High Templars as cheap as they are, right? So this is going to be very annoying. Not even a cannon to try and focus fire down any of these weak Phoenix. This is just, well, really all in for Strange. And if Strange loses to Beastyqt in a PvP, that's not going to be nearly as good of a start for him as it was yesterday's qualifier. But you know, Beastyqt playing a little weird, certainly something that Strange has to get used to. And now he's probably thinking, what the hell do I do to get rid of these disruptors? You know, the easiest option is go into your own Phoenix and try and win out. And maybe if your economy was strong this entire time, you are trying to do that. But Strange's economy has been cut severely in the last few minutes, and there's not really an option here. So I mean, I don't know what you do. I guess what he's doing right now is what you do. But it still feels like a very scary position to be in. Because even though we're in Legacy of the Void and you can't just like stay on 2 bases forever, and that's, you know, great information, Beastyqt will still have some time to mine. And he will be able to build up more Tempests, especially because he has so many disruptors. He doesn't really need to build anymore. Like, as far as his fodder units go, right? The Zealots and the Stalkers or whatever that protects the big core units, which in this case is going to be the Tempests and the Disruptors. He doesn't have a lot of that. But all the units he has, they're really, really good. Disruptors, obviously. The Tempest, not quite in a good enough count, but they're getting there. The Phoenix, crowd controlling anything that shoots up. And then the Immortals on the ground, also something he's investing into. So it's like, you know, with Strange's army, it's actually now a ton of Archons, so it's also pretty beefy, but it also has those zealots that can maybe wrap around a couple of these units, take them out easy peasy. It seems like it's you know, a larger army, like literally in size. When we watch them all clump up in a ball, it looks like a larger army, and it is by like a slight amount, army supply wise. But then this army is actually huge. It's just a mixture of very powerful units, both ground and air. The disruptors also have a weird collision box, like the little things that revolve around them doesn't actually provide collision. Although you think they would. You think they'd be getting all tangled up in each other right now. You know, more important things are happening, but they're not quite getting the shots off on Strange's army. So, anyways, both armies are scary, but I would say Strange has more of the potential to lose it all. Yeah, definitely. There's so many disruptors, and Archons are fat little things. There's an oxymoron. They're fat. They look little because they're zoomed out, but they're fat. They're chunky. So a disruptor shot, I mean, I guess it only gets like 1.5 of their Archons, but they usually just clump up and they get clipped all the time by the disruptors, so that's gonna be a lot of damage. Even if Strange got a really sick concave, which you can see he's kind of setting up here, perhaps, you know, worried that Beastyqt would try and push into him. There's still a strong chance that all the disruptors get their pop-offs, and that's going to be a lot of damage. But with him denying the third Nexus so long, Beastyqt, you know, is starting to mine out of his mana natural, of course. That is the best that he could do, and he has at least stifled the max out of Beastyqt's strong army, which is what you hope to do if someone's trying to play this type of game, right? We all know we play team games, we played against Turtley Terrans, you know, whatever. You want to try and make sure they don't get a 4th base, for instance, is usually the real cutoff, so they can't afford to go into a mass. Oh my god! Well, that might be game. That is game. I mean, let's see what the air army can do, but Lord, oh my god, the disruptors are not supposed to do that. They just died. They were all in a huge clump. They got wrapped around by the zealots and the Archons dealing their splash damage, and they died before many of them could even get shots off. And then all of a sudden, Beastyqt looks, well, he's not gonna have a third Nexus anymore, but maybe he'll try and save his natural again. Beastyqt looks like he's gonna lose this game. Strange is not on the super powerful economy to replace these Archons, but he's not quite losing them either. Their Nexus is gonna go down, and his is still alive, even though he's only on 41 workers. That's still a better situation for him. Warpism does get taken out, but oh my god, what? That was so much supply that just got wrapped around there. I really thought this was going to be a difficult game for Strange. And if he found a decent position to attack in from, maybe he'd take like a good enough fight, but he just took a dominating fight. But, you know, I guess air armies be as they are, they're kind of difficult to attack into when they're up a ramp. We now have more disruptors on the way with whatever resources Beastyqt can gather together here. A hidden Nexus would do wonders for a pink Protoss, by the way. +1 shield is almost done? I didn't even notice that. Strange's been a +3 attack for a while now. The Stalker is even doing some pretty significant damage. This Phoenix have temporarily been forgotten, but they could swoop in and do more probe damage. They're both not on, like, the best economic situations we've ever seen, but because Strange has taken so many losses to his probe line earlier on, he still is using all 45 probes to mine, I think. Not super oversaturated. Yeah. Whereas Beastyqt, I mean, should be, well, he's long distance mining, so yeah, that makes sense. Zealots are kind of weird against disruptors. As you saw right there, they just ran past the disruption shots. Oh my god, that was a good one. All those stalkers, oh my god. And they could maybe mistime it and get destroyed with the disruptors as they are now. Charge lots, as we saw, kind of just wrap around them and give them a complicated headache. That is going to be GG. Alrighty then. Strange brings it back to an ace match. I wonder what was going through his head, because that was a scary game for me. I don't want to say like I've swapped over to be a Strange fangirl or anything like that, but I did find his performance in last qualifier to be very strong, and I would expect him to do something similar. And to lose to Beastyqt would not I mean, maybe he just is like, you know what, Beastyqt is really good. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm fine with that. But usually, the guys who don't stream a lot, you know, the ones who are basically trying to make it pro, they're not going to feel that great losing in the first round match against anyone, unless the, you know, number of signups is really low and you're facing Hearths in the first round match or something. But in this big of a qualifier, you don't expect to lose in the first round. And then you'd have to play out the entirety of the losers bracket, which is a lot of stalling and stopping and starting and stopping. It gets annoying. So I was a little scared for him, but I was also scared for Beastyqt, whose army was growing to look very scary, and he had a convincing map presence with those Phoenix, but his disruptors could do what they did and just all die in a clump. So it was also scary for him. I didn't think it would be that easy almost. I mean, after you kill the disruptors, it took like 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes to kill Beastyqt, so I don't know if it was easy, but catching those disruptors was very good. I hesitate to use the word lucky, but if we rewatch that game, we could probably say it wasn't luck, it was Beastyqt messing up. If you really wanted to be harsh. You know, yeah, actually, talking about that late game army from Beastyqt, I'm surprised he went for interceptors. Well, I mean carriers to build interceptors. Ooh, he's got Terran today. This game. We'll talk more about that after the introductions. On the top right now as Terran, because he's playing random, it is Beastyqt. In the bottom left, as the red Protoss, it is Strange. So, yeah, the carrier choice was something I didn't really focus on because I was so much like, okay, the Phoenix are doing damage, the disruptor count's insane. He also got some Tempest to start off with, so it kind of even like took a while for it to register that there was carriers. That's a weird choice. I personally think that like a couple of carriers can be good when you have the position to get them. You know what I mean? Like you're not just barely scraping by getting Tempest, but you have a bit of a bank and you are developing and fleshing out your composition. So maybe even get like Void Rays, something like that, right? Because the interceptors, when they do finally pop out, they can be very annoying. You shift click 2 units and then you don't shift click the third one. Suddenly your units are firing on interceptors and you're like, well, fuck that. That's 2 shots that went away and my units are not particularly fast at shooting. They can be difficult, but they take a long time to shoot out now. And Archons can be very good against interceptors, like literally the interceptors. So, you know, combine those two problems. I'm surprised he went for carriers in PvP especially. I would have expected Mass Tempests, but we're on to a different matchup because Beastyqt is playing random. I don't know what his Zerg looks like, but his Terran is what we're still most familiar with. I'm sure he gets lots of people going into his chat asking why isn't he playing Terran, even when he has like, you know, top 50 GM Protoss, top 100 random, whatever his rank is, right? And I just don't seem to look at the title. Thank you, Sumulux, for the 14-month resub. Another month. Thumbs up. Alright, so Beastyqt's mech, kind of what he's known for, even as he's played so much more random. Oh, he's Nova.
Our SCVs are under fire.
Okay, stop using Nova. And I don't believe he's changed up that much, even as he plays random and he plays other races. I think his Terran is a lot what we remember it to be. So it might do particularly well in this meta with the 1-base openers that he's showing us right now, but you know, something is totally normal. And something that I think he was doing before it even was totally normal. Occasionally, not always. But he always, you know, he had like different builds. I think he was a person who was willing to try mech versus Protoss. So we might see it here today. But I'm not sure exactly what he does. But we can kind of just guarantee that it's going to be something weird and it's going to throw Strange off a bit. I said I wonder what Strange was thinking in that last game, not just because losing in the first round is quite disheartening, but also because it was such a weird game. You know, PvP already at its most correct, you know, quote unquote way of playing is already kind of weird with the amount of builds you can do and the amount of, you know, secrets you can keep with the proxies and hidden tech and whatnot, and just with the whole inclination to go into Stargate versus Stargate, which has really made the matchup quite, I think, frustrating for Protoss. And on top of that, you have someone who's doing something a little bit weirder, and you're probably feeling a little flustered while you're still trying to keep your base mechanics good. Because it's one thing to be flustered and miss a timing that you should have hit, and it's another thing to be flustered, miss the timing, and then also be behind 10 probes because you were so focused on what the hell they were doing, you stopped macroing. So I don't know how Strange deals with that. You know, Beastyqt's play is the type of play that does knock out people from tournaments when you don't expect it to. And some of the people who don't get knocked out of tournaments, yes, they're just superior, like they're better players, but also they have better mentalities to deal with it. So I don't know what Strange is like, but he's getting tested. This one base Widowmine drop is not totally insane to see, but it's not what we usually see, right? With a one base Terran player, we're talking usually more about factories, maybe a proxy liberator, sometimes a starport's proxy for a Hellion drop, but kind of the triple Widowmine drop we saw here on one base, I want to say is like bottom of the barrel, the last build you would expect to see. So the probe pool is a little late and against more than 2 Widowmines. So in this case, it was a triple Widowmine drop. Other cases, it can be quadruple Widowmine drop. You are almost guaranteed to mess up one section of your probes unless you're already on top of the medevac. So, 6 probes, you know, that stings. It was a little because he wasn't expecting it until that observer got in there and saw exactly what was happening. But, oh, I didn't even notice that survived. Got another 2 probes, but Strange was paying attention even as he moves across the map, which I deemed more important to watch, because even though it's not a lot of units and not a lot of production here, just a, you know, typical production, 3 gateways and a robo, that's what Protoss would usually have even if they weren't doing an attack. It's an attack on top of a Terran who is just simply not well defended quite yet, who also has limited production, although it's changing now. Finally, these barracks are getting their additional add-ons. It was for a long time just a 1-1-1. So the bunker was on the low ground, and an SCV pool could save it, so the tank could reposition. The command center probably stays on the low ground, but it was a little late, and you know, tank was on the high ground anyways. So it might have been a bust no matter what with that immortal, and even 1 force field. So Beastyqt is going to be denied mining for an extended period of time. He is going into bio, got stim on the way. Finally, the command center is turning into an orbital, but this is a very slow start. Strange was cut down to size to match Beastyqt with that Widowmine drop, which is something that Beastyqt is going to be, he's going to have to be happy with, right? But that could quickly change. Chrono Boost is now going to be used on, well, whatever Strange wants. It's not been used yet. Maybe holding on to that in case he wanted to chrono a gateway, maybe. But it could be used to get that full saturation. Hell, even like 1 chrono would probably do it. Here we go. Okay, it's going to be on Colossus as his robotics bay finishes up. So I guess while temporarily you feel kind of strong for denying that natural, you do have to recognize that Beastyqt is getting to a decent production and he is getting to a decent army. We certainly see a lot of TVPs end with the Terran player doing a push off the back of this composition here. Like these amount of units even, with maybe a couple SCVs pulled. We see games end from that. So Strange does have to, you know, I guess take it seriously. Not just say like, aha, I'm totally like dominating this game because I forced your natural to lift off temporarily. Maybe you could have gone for a 3rd Nexus and then Colossus. Okay, maybe if you try to push it and be greedy. But going for a Colossus against what is an increasing, like, well, he's going into Marauders now, but is a very large Marine army. Even with the 2 tanks firing, they would melt pretty quickly. So Strange should feel safe, even if he doesn't feel maybe as ahead economically as maybe he could have been. You know, only up 6 workers with 2 mules now dropping down for Beastyqt is just about right. But man, he's gonna take a good fight if Beastyqt runs up here. Terran has a scouting marine as the Protoss sees the army coming with Lucent Phoenix. That means that Strange doesn't have any force fields, but I'm not sure that he'll need them. There they are. Okay, I was gonna say I think you do still need them. Like 2 Colossus will burn through the Marines pretty quickly, but You do want the opportunity for a Guardian Shield, first of all, against the Marines, as well as to slice them off from the protection of the tanks, if possible. Beastyqt has Stim combat shields, and he's about to have +1 around the same time that Strange does, but Strange is about to have a third Colossus. Starts up his charge as well, which is going to help against the tanks. Now, it's only 3 tanks. We don't have Beastyqt continuing to produce them. We don't have him pulling SCVs either. So I do expect a third CC, and actually that's exactly what happens behind this push. So Beastyqt going to stay as long as he deems possible without being just totally pounced upon and taken out. Because if this army suddenly gets overwhelmed, that is most of his army gone, even though he's producing back at home. So he's got to have that right moment where he's done what he can. He's done the damage he can, and then he's going to go ahead and leave. Many players who try and do a similar tank push overstay their welcome and get demolished and say, well, tank pushes suck. Not saying I'm that type of Terran, but maybe I am. So we're on to Vikings, which is the oldest way to fight against Colossus. And I'm sure it's to some people's mentality, like, I'm thinking that some people think that it's still the best way. There's this weird phase where Colossus were a counter to Liberators. I know it sounds weird, but trust me, that's how it went down. In the beginning of Legacy of the Void, it was actually Night End of all people that was kind of pushing that, and it was weird to see him push that response that eventually became the standard. Then you had Terrans who were turtling more and more and getting too fast, like more Liberators faster with their upgrades. So suddenly Liberators were dominating Protoss for a long time. I think we all remember that period. Freedom forever. And then it's bounced back and forth, and we had the proxy meta, right, with Terrans, so we all were there for that one. And now we're here, where apparently in Europe, it's not so much about the 2 base, 3 fake 3rd base tank pushes, so on and so forth, as it is actually having a macro game. And while Liberators, if you can get them up to a count of 10 with +2 in Liberator range, will take care of Colossus, and the Protoss will have to go into Tempests, until you get there, Liberators actually don't do that great of a job against Colossus-based compositions. Especially because you usually assume there's Stalkers here, but funnily enough, there's no Stalkers. Now, that's going to backfire not just against Liberators, which you need to take down as quick as possible. It will also backfire against Vikings, like ditto. They need to be able to micro against them, blink when they're trying to move forward on top of the Colossus, snipe 2 or 3 down. So they're now getting up there to 7, and okay, their blinks finally starts. I was gonna say, like, that's it's like almost a greedy thing to do, I want to say. You go up to 5 Colossus, which is a little, like, we see a lot of Protoss only stay at 3, for instance. And you don't get any Stalkers, you are asking them to go for double starports pretty quickly and just get a lot of Vikings. You are asking for that to happen and for them to kill you. But if they're playing defensive Liberator style, then I guess they would just stay defensive. Elucidate Phoenix scouts what exactly the army composition is. And there should be an urgency to get to Blink, but he canceled it. That's weird. Well, I guess when I say, I guess Blink is like you could maybe make an argument that Blink isn't necessary as long as you have a decent number of Stalkers, but I'm not sure how much that argument actually stands up. You almost always see Blink included in PvT at some point in this game, so just to skip it, just to cancel it, it's freaking me out, man. I'm like triple checking that he didn't finish it in record time. He's just not getting it. What happened? Did Twilight Council die? No. Really? Okay, well. As I said, you could make an argument that maybe it's not necessary. The Vikings are going to fly over your army for the most part, especially when there's no Liberators to provide that backbone to it. If there's Liberators, even only 4 of them with their zones set up, and you try and chase down some of the weak Vikings, well, then your Stalkers will die, right? But I guess if there's no Liberator zones and you have your army all together, I guess they'll still be able to stalk forward with their little legs and snipe a couple of Vikings. But there, he finally had Blink on the way. I wonder what he was... I mean, he saw the move out, and it seemed like a cancel based on, like, I need the money right here, right now. But I thought Blink would have been so important that was I don't know, not an option that you had. But anyways, Regardless of the blink thing, we do have a lot of stalkers. But this is a situation where they would blink forward right now and take out the Vikings. Now they have to walk forward. They also can't do the opposite, which is walk forward and then blink back in case there's tanks or something firing down on them, right? So it seems like a very important upgrade. Now we have Storm. But that still comes down to the stalkers usually getting some last hits. We'll see what happens as they are in a warp prison. They're looking for the juicy storms on top of the entire army. They're going to get the bio. Only some of the Vikings, and the Vikings currently just demolishing, oh good lord, the Colossus count. One even interference matrix, so it wasn't even helping in the first place. So the Vikings do their job, but the ground army was not holding up so well, as most of it is dead or dying. Chargers running after with their 2-1 upgrades. Actually, +2 is almost done for their attack as well. Probes went down somewhere, I guess along the third base, but that doesn't matter. Beastyqt's gonna die. He did start to go into Liberators, which I think this would have been a very strong transition because he already had +2 on the way. And if he had been able to hold that position for a little longer, he would have been even able to reinforce it with like what was now gonna be 7 Liberators. That's a decent amount. And I guess with 7 Liberators, it will be enough to defend 2 locations. But the third base does go down. And Strange is on 4 bases, able to get to Tempest, which he's already on top of. He already had a Stargate started, so Fleet Beacon, more Stargates, +1 flyer attack. It's all looking like it's Strange's game. He's going to push in here, but that is a lot of Liberators. and a choke, so it's a little dangerous. Also, the Vikings on the ground shouldn't be underestimated against the mechanical units that are Protoss. So they can help out again once they take out this one. Oh my god. GG. You think they went left and they went right.